This game was grueling. It was painful. It was gut-wrenching. It turns your insides upside down and inside out. Let's do it again. Yeah, that is a heroic performance if I've ever seen it.
Two things. One, that's your worst one you've created yet. And two, David Fry would use that as his walk-up song. Guy has like the worst, least motivating walk-up song in baseball. Oh, man.
Doesn't matter if it's motivating. If it's motivating to him, that's what works. It worked for Josh Tomlin in 2016 with his song that wasn't all that motivating. And you know what? I think he should switch this, because if a guy has a performance like that in Game 4 to keep this club alive, he can play whatever the hell he wants when he gets up there. Who are you to tell him he can't?
What did we just get done talking about after Game 3?
I don't know. What? Tell me.
I don't remember either. This week's been a blur. No, it's talked about Rajai Davis. We talked about how the beauty, and you laid it out there perfectly in your intro, but the beauty and the cruelty and the agony and the twisted nature of postseason baseball allows for us to create these narratives, to create these memories that in a lot of instances are not fair or are not representative of what we watched during a marathon season. So, of course, it's David Fry against a righty. Of course, it's David Fry entering as a pinch hitter in the 7th, not the 3rd. And of course, against all odds, he hits one out. And you can take it back to David Fry, the player to be named later. You can take it back to David Fry, the guy who couldn't get consistent at bats as the 26th guy on the roster. You can take it back to David Fry, the player at Northwestern State who had no plans to be every regular big leaguer. You could take it back to David Fry, the All-Star. What a journey he's been on, and what a moment he created that he'll have the rest of his life.
And you joke about how we don't remember what we talked about after Game 3, in part because we would like to flush whatever bad opinions we had and hold on to the ones whatever we were correct about. But the reality here is, in the postseason, it really is about what happened in the most recent plate appearance, or for a pitcher, their most recent inning, and how crucial was it to where your team ultimately got. Right now, I'm going to remember David Fry having the game that he did, pinch hitting, 2-run go-ahead home run. That legitimately, that's the first time this team has ever had a pinch hitter hit a go-ahead home run in the postseason.
How about this? It's only the second.
What?
It's only the second pinch hit home run in postseason history. Period. Do you know who hit the? Do you know who hit the first? Stop. You don't. It's no one you've ever heard of.
Okay.
Hank Majeski.
Yeah, no.
In Game 4 of the 1954 World Series. So, this happens about once every 70 years.
It's like seeing a comet or some cosmic event, or David Fry coming off the bench off of a righty. But the thing is, to come back to the point, we forget about these pinch hitting conversations we were having after Game 3. And it's not because they weren't important. They were. And I want to talk in the minutes we have ahead. I need to let you get to bed. And there's already been some zaniness on this channel that I don't know if we should take ownership of. That was my fault. That it was not my idea to go live. People were craving it, apparently. But we forget everything up to this point because it's It's about kind of what we laid out in that show. The teams that advance, they get those performances. And it could come from someone like David Fry. Now, I know he was an all-star this year, but it could come from, and I think to some degree it has to come from those unexpected places, in addition to your star players taking over a series. The teams that advance, you get those performances. And because we're talking about these short samples in 5-game and 7-game series, that decides where you get. And it breaks your heart when things go poorly, but you love it when things go great. And this was as grueling a game as I can remember in quite some time. Moments I had to just step away from and take my eyes off the television set, because I can't even imagine being in these games because I'm struggling to just watch it. And you get that big performance by David Fry, the 2-run home run, and then the insurance late on a bunt. God, wow, this game is amazing.
Yeah, and so I was asking everybody, what was your vantage point of the home run? And my favorite answer, because everybody's like, oh, this guy called it, Ben Lively called it, everybody called it. This guy called it, I was going nuts, I blacked out. And then Hunter Gaddis, who pitched the 6th, then goes back to the dugout, knows he's going to go back out for the 7th, so he's got to keep his cool. But oh wait, he's the size of Mount Kilimanjaro, so as he's sitting on the bench, the dugout railing is level with his eyes. So he hears Fry the crack of the bat, and he can't follow the ball flight. So everyone's got these answers, like Kwan's like, I was on second base, and I know that left field well. It's very spacious out there, so I waited to make sure the ball disappeared before I started going crazy. I don't know if you saw Josh Naylor flung his bat to Mars. Everyone's
Shocked.
going crazy, and then Gaddis is like, "Did it go out? Did he hit it? Is it fair? Was it a fly ball?" So it's just and then picturing him, everyone in the dugout's going insane. And he's got to be calm because he has to go pitch. You can't get the adrenaline flowing so much that you then go back out there and give that lead right back. So it's just such, and I think Gaddis kind of got some, a little bit of the spotlight because he came in and went an inning and 2/3 through 32 pitches. It's a good example of how it feels like. We said Jose Ramirez needs to just put the team on his back, right? But you can't really do that in baseball. Stephen Kwan, it seems like he's gotten a hit every at-bat of the series. And yet the offense is still sputtering, and it's because it's really hard to do by yourself. So you think about just all the people who contribute to a win like this, and you have to have that. And I think that's such a healthy way to play when your back's against the wall, because you can't, how before the extra inning rule with the ghost runner, you'd get those 17-inning games because everyone would just try to pop a home run to end it. And so when everyone's trying to hit a home run, no one hits a home run and the game never ends. In a game like this, it's when you're getting contributions all over the place, when Rocchio is delivering at the bottom of the lineup, when Fry obviously with the pinch hit, Ramirez delivered, Kwan's doing his thing. You're getting different relievers coming in. Clase gets his redemption. That's such a healthy environment. It's so easy to succumb to the pressure here and be like, we're facing elimination. Oh my God, what do we do? There's so much pressure. But when everybody is chipping in a little bit, I think that's how you pull this out.
And there's still some elements that are out of your control, in that you go through the process and it might have actually been the wrong answer and you still get the correct answer. That's basically how I got any good grades in high school, just accidentally. You get the answer correct. And there was some degree of that I felt like in this game, or at least things that I felt were curious. And I want to build up to where they got to in the 7th inning. Remember when Tanner Bybee started this game?
No.
As I joked about on the live stream, that felt like a century ago.
By the way, did you notice him chomping his gum like crazy?
Oh, yeah.
New piece each inning.
Not shocked. I mean, that flavor's not going to last that long when you're chewing it like that. He was clearly battling command at the beginning of this game. Everything was elevated, similar to what we saw in Game 1, but this was just ramped up to 11. And he, outside of some bendy stuff that he could get in the zone, that was about it for him. And it got to a point where he was looking to throw a strike, and he had to go to that. And Detroit hitters, even young and experienced ones, are going to pick up on that. And eventually, what are they going to do? They're going to sit on that because they know that's the only thing you can throw for a strike. And so while I was very happy to see Cleveland finally put a run up, even though that felt like a challenge just to get a run in the first inning, finally Lane Thomas comes through, and so you could take that scoreless streak off the board. But Detroit answered back, and it was just a challenge. Well, Jose probably has us in mind as he crushes the home run, as we were crushing him after Game 3. Not really crushing him, but you want your superstars to step up and have big moments in the postseason. That's what's going to carry you forward, and he did. I was shocked that Stephen Vogt didn't just take the victory, which I thought was a victory. Bybee overcame whatever he was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And now you are to the bottom of the fifth inning. You've now taken the lead. I thought you'd take that W, that you survived whatever Bybee was dealing with. He settled down to those final 2 innings. Now you give the ball to the bullpen. But instead, he opted to send Bybee back out. I get that you are at the bottom of the lineup, and if everything goes to plan, then you have Cade Smith come back another inning into the future to face the top of the lineup. But I thought Vogt got greedy. I thought that was the expectation there was one you just could not have. And the worst case scenario here is now you're going to still have to go to Cade Smith, except now there could be potential traffic on the bases. Or, in this case, you give up a home run to McKinstry, and this game's now tied again.
Yeah, it's easy to call revisionist history on that. I'd push back because I'd push back against those pushing back against you, I guess, because it's an elimination game, and you have a day off tomorrow. So you are taking your best pitchers, and you are deploying them as much as possible. And you know, in the hierarchy, where a Tanner Bybee, whose command is not quite there, ranks on that list. Below Cade Smith, certainly, right? So use Cade Smith. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it reached a point. I texted you. I said I'd just go Class A for 2. I wouldn't bother with Tim Herron in the 8th. Ends up being a good thing they get the insurance run. Weirdly, Class A gets out of that and then gives one up in the 9th. But it's just it makes me so curious for Game 5. And as we record this, they have not named a starter for Game 5. We'll get that Friday early-ish afternoon. It's the same thing. It's like, okay, think about 9 innings. How many, or 27 outs, how many do you want Class A to get? How many do you want Cade Smith to get? How many do you want Hunter Gaddis to get? How many do you want Tim Herron to get? And how many are left over? You can't script it perfectly, but you kind of have to, because this is it. There is nothing to lose. You are going all out. Coming off an off day. All those pitchers are going to want the ball. How many are left for Matthew Boyd? Is Matthew Boyd the answer? Do you trust him? You can have a quick hook? Like, there are a lot of questions here. Is Kerry Carpenter healthy?
Yeah,
if he's
that's
not,
a big thing. That's
if
a
he's not,
big question.
Do you still start Boyd? Do you start a righty? What's Gavin Williams doing? What's Andrew Walters doing?
Were you in the live chat?
What's Cade Smith doing?
There were some calls. There were some calls for Gavin Williams because they did see Boyd. Do you try not to overthink this and just hand the ball to the veteran starter that did not look overwhelmed in the moment in Game 2, that had success? And again, he did not match Skubal pitch for pitch, but the results were still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And he did just enough to do what you wanted, get you deep
Confident
enough to where
he can do it again? It's a little scary, right?
I don't know. I don't know. But do you make a change because you think that it's not going to happen again and go to someone that could be less reliable? Like, Gavin Williams is scary as hell. Like I don't think you do that. But I also see this game here, Vogt did eventually go to the bullpen, and Cade Smith came in, and he finally gave up a run in the postseason. Gaddis followed, Herron. We have seen guys that haven't been quite as sharp as we normally expect them to be, and it's not a surprise that they would be a little less sharp because this is a little bit more pressure-packed. Everybody has to be a little bit more perfect when the offense is doing nothing in 2 out of the 4 games that you've played to this point, so you're operating with no margin for error. You're deep into a season with guys' workloads have never been in this position before. So maybe that adds to the, I kind of want to get Bybee in there to get 3 more outs for me because it's getting harder and harder to stretch to the end of the game. Like earlier in the series, maybe you thought that you could because guys have not been as sharp. And Clase has had some rare hiccups even when he's been in there. Mm-hmm. So does that change your philosophy on a Game 5? Before the series started, I think we all would have said, oh, you're in this position? You're absolutely trusting that bullpen. Well, now we've seen how this plays out. Do you just trust the bullpen because they were so great up to this point?
The thing is, those 4 guys aren't going to do... They're not going to get you through 9. You need one more. You need a missing piece. I don't know what that missing piece is. Maybe it's Boyd. I mean, he earned it. It's also insane to think ball would be in his hand in a do-or-die game. It's nuts.
Yeah, how many times did he land in the 3 guys you would... Here's our 3 for the playoffs.
Not until, like, October 1st. Yeah, it's wild. I don't know the answer. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. But, you know, with Scooble on the other side, it's like, can't get this wrong. Why do I feel like... Isn't this the same discussion as 2 years ago? I mean, it's different in the, I guess, the style. Like, that was Bieber on short rest versus Aaron Savali versus just go bullpen game. This is definitely different because they just don't really have starting pitchers. But it's similar in that,
yeah,
you know, 4 batters into the game, you can realize, I think we chose poorly.
No matter what you choose, by the way.
Yeah.
Because if the bullpen game starts to blow up, like Detroit's has gone pretty darn well after Game 1. But in Game 1, the plan was in place and it blew up, and everyone said, "Oh, they should."
Same thing.
They should have started.
5 batters in, it was over.
Exactly. Yeah. So even the best plans that, as shown by Detroit, over time proved to be the correct one for what you're operating with, what you got, doesn't mean that it doesn't blow up in a 1 game. Forget short series. It's now 1 game. 1 game predicts where this is going to go, and guys could even make a good pitch. You know, Gaddis comes in. We've seen in this series just a little blooper falls in, and that could change an inning. And Detroit ends up taking the lead because of ball that's not hit all that hard, but it finds some grass. And then we've also seen these 2 teams play some incredible defense at times. How about the play at second base by Colt Keith? How about that play, though, but that kept Jimenez from getting an RBI? We saw the play that Quan made. We saw Noel make some incredible plays and use his arm to change ball games.
You know what's funny?
This is what's incredible. It's going to be something we're not even thinking about right now.
But that sort of thing happens throughout 162. We just don't care. Like it's so funny how everything is so amplified. Just in the postseason,
throw a dart at a dartboard, and any of those games could be like.
Right.
This happened on June 17th, and that's what determined what happened in Game 5.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. I'm glad it got the primetime slot. I know some fans are not happy because it's now going to run concurrent with Ohio State, Oregon. But for a national baseball audience, you know, I think people will be tuned in, and it should be a good game. I mean, the Tigers would have taken this scenario. They've got Scooble on the mound with their season on the line. And they'll have a healthy bullpen too. But, and then if you're the Guardians, it's like, well, you don't have to worry about the creative, strategic pinch hitting deployment. You got to put your best lineup against a lefty, but that best lineup didn't produce anything in game 2. So what will be different? Does it help that they just saw Scooble? Hasn't helped anyone yet this year.
And his stuff was electric in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
You could have seen him 3 consecutive days somehow, and I don't think that would have mattered when the stuff is as crisp as it is. But if he makes a mistake, or even in that game, there were 2 opportunities where you finally had a run-scoring chance and 2 double plays killed it. That I think that's what you have to hold on to as a hitter. You can't just say, well, he destroyed us and we had no shot. No, I think you come back to, we had 2 opportunities against this guy. He's not infallible. We can get to him, but we just have to execute better when we get in position to take advantage of it. You keep saying it. His ERA wasn't 0 this year. There is a chance to score runs against this guy.
I mean, look at Fry. His last at bat in game 3, he scorched one to third base, but Veerling was positioned perfectly. He's got to take that with him and say, that was a good at bat. I hit that ball on the screws. There's nothing I can do about that. The process over the result, as hard as that is to accept, because you lost a playoff game and you stranded a bunch of runners and you went over 3, and then he comes back the next night. He's facing another righty, and look what happened.
That's exactly what we talked about. That's the mentality that they have to have. We have a different one when we're talking about it.
We have to be mad at somebody. They don't.
Well, they can be mad, but it's not going to help them in the at-bat. I can be mad, and it'll help me vent my frustration as I watch them go 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. And at that point, it's got to be the hitting coach that did something. He must have done something. Some line of information that didn't work.
Well, remember the Jobu figurine that Napoli and Kipnis had in the locker between them in 16, and how that was like their shrine, and that propelled them to the World Series?
Yeah.
There's got to be.
And somebody,
something like that.
Somebody touched that? Didn't it get broken at some point?
Yeah. Well, Kipnis smashed it at one point, and then they redid it.
I'm sure he smashed it accidentally.
But you know who has a Jobu doll though? Right now? Tarek Scooble's mother keeps it under her bed. So we'll see how that comes into play in Game 5.
I'm going to need some more context here. You can't just leave it hanging there.
You'll have to go read Cody Stavenhagen's story on The Athletic, because I read it and I don't remember the context. Just know his mom has a Jobu doll taped under her bed or his bed at home in Arizona.
I'll be honest. There are a lot of places you can put a doll of some sort that you're putting energy into, and I think of all those places, under my bed would not be one of them.
You're going to look under the bed for like a sock you dropped at some point, and it's just staring back at you.
I won't say that at 40 years old I still occasionally think about my foot being outside hanging off the bed and something could grab it at any time, so slide it back underneath the covers in the middle of the night. That's definitely not me. I don't do something like that. Pitch black room. So no, I don't think I'd be putting Jobu under the bed for any reason whatsoever.
Can you believe they won?
It worked out.
They won a
Cy Young Award.
I'm ending
potentially
the scary bed monster conversation here. 9,848 days since they last won a playoff elimination game, and they did it. The streak is over.
Thanks to that monster under the bed that turned out to be David Fry. Did this remind you of Game 4, 97, Mariano, Sandy Alomar, late go-ahead home run?
It did, because Sandy and I were reminiscing about that before the game. I didn't mean to approach it like this, but we ended up just talking about all his heartbreaks. Like, he goes, well, what about the series where we were up against the Yankees? And I was like, oh, you mean you mean 98? And he goes, no. I was like, oh, you mean 2017? He goes, no. Oh, you mean 2022? Like, which World Series collapse? Which, like, it's
Stop.
insane. I know.
Stop, Sandy.
But that 97 run was just bonkers, as we've covered in our game recaps. Obviously, the World Series Game 6 is when they staved off elimination to force a Game 7 that Sandy still won't watch or talk about. But yeah, in the first round, the divisional series against the Yankees, they're down 2-1. Sandy hits the home run in the 8th inning off Mariano Rivera. A little different than Bo Brisky, but that forced a Game 5 that they won at home. So that's similar. Now you got the Yankees waiting on the winner here. And it's insane. I mean, like, you have two teams Saturday night. Their team planes will be on the runway, and they'll both be waiting. We going to New York? We going, well, I guess Cleveland's would just be New York or nowhere. And Detroit's would be, we going to New York or we going back to Detroit? And it's wild. But you also have to wait for one of those teams to spray champagne too.
For someone who was there in attendance, because I can't get a grasp on what it's like on television, because I have seen, and we talked about this in the live stream, people are claiming that TBS, TNT, they're taking down the crowd audio so it's not quite as loud as it actually is in person, that it's not as overwhelming on the broadcast. Now, that could just be because the broadcasters are isolated better, and so they just stand out more than the crowd. I mean, there could be reasons for it, but people believe that they are purposely taking down the crowd volume, and it's not leading to quite the atmosphere that it actually is in person. So you were there 2 games in Detroit. You saw a fan base that was screaming their heads off, and then take us through the moment where David Fry hits the home run and what happens to that ballpark.
So that's always a really cool spectacle, because the place is going nuts, and I thought it was loud. I thought Detroit fans showed up. It was great. They set a record in Game 3 for playoff attendance at Comerica Park. They'd waited 10 years for this. I thought it was a great atmosphere. But when you have that moment where, and I remember this happening when Kipnis hit the 3-run homer at Wrigley. And I remember it happening, I think, when one of the home runs in Toronto, did someone hit a home run in Game 5 to put
Coco Crisp?
Well, Crisp hit one in every freaking clincher, yeah. Must have been. But it's that, like, there's that buzz and the excitement from the home crowd to, like, get out of an inning, and then they go silent at the crack of the bat, and then you can hear the dugout, the visitors' dugout, going nuts. And it's this crazy, this drastic shift in, like, decibel level. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's really cool.
Or painful, depending on the point of view here. Like, I'm thinking of Didi Gregorius.
Just because it's
Didi
silent.
Gregorius, remember that?
Which one?
Didi Gregorius, and when he was
yes, that's a great
taking
example.
Kluber deep.
Where it's silent except for this one little concentrated area. Those people are going nuts, except for Hunter Gaddis. Who's did we take the lead?
What happened?
Am I going back out there?
Usually the joke is that it's the short guy, like in Lord of the Rings. Shall I get you a box? No.
Sure.
In this case, it's because he's too tall.
Yeah.
His sight line is obscured by the fencing in front.
Yeah, it's a cool. Honestly, the most recent example would be Kerry Carpenter's home run. Same thing happened in Cleveland the other day.
Yeah. I'm with you. From the broadcast, it looked like a great environment in Detroit, and I can't wait to see what we got for Game 5. It is Game 5 or Game 7s, those deciding games for both teams. It's not quite what they talked about in 2016 because regardless, the rug was going to be pulled out from somebody, but you knew the season ended at the end of that for everybody. In this case, somebody moves on and somebody doesn't, but it creates it's so unique. You get excited for games before a deciding game. Fans are into it, but there's a different sort of energy that I've always felt when you're around a deciding game. There's a nervousness, and you're thinking about what could go wrong, but you're also trying to think about the celebration that could be had. And everyone, I always just feel like more than any game, there's like everyone is just they're trying to pull whatever the outcome is going to be, or whatever gets them fired up or silent. The crowd is just trying to draw it out, and they're almost just waiting in anticipation for that moment to get there. And it's just so I know every sport has this to some degree, but in baseball it just feels so different.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tension unlike anything else. You don't know which pitch is going to be the one that alters the course of a game.
Season.
And there are just so many moving parts. I mean, what did we talk about? We talked about all the people that have to contribute. We talked about all the decisions that go into each at bat versus pitcher, and how you never really know if it's going to work out the way you want, if you're going to look like a genius or a dunce. And it just makes this such an unpredictable, wild, terrible, amazing roller coaster. And it's
awful.
That's the beauty of it too, is like, whether you're a player and you're in it, like, you're feeling that, your stomach's churning. If you're a fan, it is so bad for your health. I'll tell you this. Mike Chernoff, Guardians GM, you know what he did after Game 3? He went for a run. He said he felt so much stress and frustration and disappointment and all this stuff because he thought they were prepared and they just didn't win Game 3. And he thought, my two options now to channel all this emotion are go for a run or eat 4 gallons of ice cream. We know that's what Terry Francona would have done. Chernoff went for a run. You know what he did when he woke up on Thursday morning? He went for a run. So, it's just a way to showcase that, everybody feels the anxiety and the turmoil. And, even for me, I'm sitting there and as the game's unfolding, I'm trying to juggle. I got to write either a season obituary on the eve of the 76th anniversary of their last championship, by the way, or, oh my God, there's going to be some hero and there's a Game 5. And you don't know which it is. And you think, oh, maybe it's going to be Jose Ramirez. What a great narrative here. Then you think, oh, they lost. We better start cracking away at this obit. Then it's, oh my God, David Fry, what a great story. Then it's, oh, are they going to hold this lead? Then it's a squeeze bunt. Then it's Clase. Is he going to hang on? And so many things go back and forth. And these are two very divergent paths here. Either crazy, listen to the conversation we're having where it's, oh my God, can you believe what just happened? And whoa, Game 5, exciting. Versus, here lie the 2024 Guardians. It's crazy. And you don't know which it's going to be until the very last pitch because it was such an intense game. And, that's the beauty here. I know other sports and other postseasons have it too. Don't get me wrong. I freaking love the NFL postseason. I live for March Madness every year. But it's just so great. And maybe we think of it as even better than it really is just because it's so different. It's the antithesis to its regular season where we're like, let's not make a big deal out of this 12-game losing streak or 12-game winning streak. There's 162 games for a reason. And then here we're sitting on the edge of our seats for this random 2-1 pitch in the third inning of Game 4. It's nuts.
Between two, and this has made for such a fun series between these two teams because we said it when it began. They're so they kind of mirror each other. They want to accomplish the same things, and Cleveland ultimately in 2 of the games has executed that plan a little bit better, and 2 of the games Detroit has. And I know Game 1 was over pretty quickly, but Game 4 up to the deciding moment, you still didn't know if Cleveland was going to finish that off. This has been a thrilling series, but between two very evenly matched clubs, I think. At this point in their season, I know the records will say Cleveland is better, and I still will feel a extreme level of disappointment because you should beat Detroit, because the full season decides you are better than them. You should have beaten them. But this is still a very this is not like playing a terrible team and going, what the hell? Why can't this is not when they dropped 3 out of 4 against the White Sox and going, what is happening here? Like, I buy it. Detroit is a tough team that even when they should have taken that body blow or maybe even knockout punch from David Fry and said, all right, well, we got our ace, we got Game 5. That team did not quit. There was nobody saying, oh, well, we got our ace. We'll come. This was house money day. It's fine.
Look, I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday night, but this is fun. I know that the listeners hate this. They say, just steamroll everybody. Give me my championship that I've waited for my whole life. I don't need the romantic, recap of it all. But, man, wouldn't it feel a little like you earned it more if the road to the title was not at all easy?
Sure, tell yourself that as all these games are just taking years off your life. Yeah, absolutely loved it.
You know what's taking years off my life? Life. Enjoy this.